much. Can you hear me okay? Perfect. Thank you very much. It's a real pleasure to be here. So I think many trade unionists, like everyone else in the public, has been following the junior doctors' dispute. This is a huge national dispute over a blatant attack on our terms and conditions of service by the Conservative government. And we suspect, well, I think we know, that it's part of a wider attack on our NHS and on healthcare workers with the aim of privatisation. So it's absolutely vital that we resist that, not just as trade unionists defending our members' terms and conditions, but defending the NHS, which we love and belongs to us all. The government announced on the 11th of February that they would impose a contract on us after, in their terms, negotiations between them and the BMA broke down. I suppose that's one way of putting it. The other way of putting it is that we wouldn't give them what they wanted, so they left and said, well, you're having it anyway. This is a profoundly undemocratic way to treat any group of workers, and I think as trade unionists in the public sector, we should all be very concerned about this, because it probably sets the precedent over how future collective bargaining with them is likely to go. This is a decision that's been widely acknowledged as unfair, including by very senior members of the NHS, albeit privately. Many trust chief executives and their boards don't think that's the way to treat people, and we fully agree with that. The government appear to be moving towards the classic tactic of divide and rule. For example, the way they've pitched it, 50% of junior doctors, or slightly over, will continue to get the unsocial hours payments on Saturdays, which, as you might know, is a big issue in the dispute. So far that hasn't worked, but we can see where they're trying to let that one go. Public support remains strong. A poll by the BBC says 65% of members of the public support the junior doctors, which is roughly what it's been since the start of our dispute. And I think that's pretty good, considering the decades of attack on trade unions that we've heard about by our excellent speakers today. Probably more so than that, we've maintained excellent pan-union support. This really is our fight, and I think for the first time in a long time, the doctors are realising that we are workers like everybody else and are getting on with working with other unions. And I hope that's a positive thing for our union, the BMA, that comes out of it. It's not all plain sailing. I think the media is beginning to turn, and it's only going to get worse as things go. In terms of practical tactics, it's funny as a 29-year-old to giving advice to experienced trade unionists like yourselves, but I've been really reassured that what we're doing is what we should be doing. Ethel's quite excellent talk earlier took us through a number of tactics, and I think we at the BMA have been using all of them to good effect. Primarily, we've been running successful industrial action. While we haven't called a full-out strike, we've called the emergency care only. So using that, around about 35 to 40% of junior doctors should still be working. The latest figures we've got is 44% of junior doctors were working over our last 2 days of action, which means only a very small number of people are crossing picket lines. So that degree of unity is very, very reassuring. We've put thousands and thousands of man-hours into the industrial action, planning it at every level from national, regional and local to make sure that our members are reassured that the action is safe and effective. We've also been working with the media to make sure that picket lines are covered and our campaign remains in the papers to take the fight to the government and not go away. We do see that that's tailing off a bit as the campaign carries on, but certainly here in the North West we retain excellent media coverage. We've taken this tactic of using the grassroots people to try to do more media work than perhaps union officials or paid staff. We've made sure that they're briefed and that the contact number for our press office, regional and national organisers is easy to find for our members, so that if they do have a last-minute television appearance, they can get in touch to make sure that they're saying the right things and we're all on message. Can't say it's 100% successful. Some people are going off message and saying at times slightly odd things, but there's not an awful there's not an awful lot more I think we can do on that, apart from making ourselves accessible. We're fortunate at the BMA to have a 24-hour press office coverage, so people are encouraged to call them even at peculiar times that junior doctors work, although the government wouldn't have you believe it. I think one thing we must ensure that we have